And that's when the squirrel. Oh. And so for today, we'll take a look at Tuesday, November 12th. We'll finish going over Block for Junkie here in just a moment, and we'll take a look at our bell work from there. Did I have someone who wanted to volunteer? And today is only a one monkey treat day. I don't think today should be very tough. So I think you should be fine in theory. You feel brave?
Yeah.
You're gonna go for it.
But I'm still gonna try.
That's not exactly confident, but okay. Ready?
Yeah.
You have the whole way through the whole thing.
Whole thing?
The whole thing. This is pretty easy.
Wait, I have a question.
You need to back out? You sure? Okay.
I have it.
Does anyone feel they can do it without getting it wrong?
Okay, wait, I have one question.
No, I volunteered.
Did you say how many phrases there were?
Yes.
And I'm gonna kill myself in here.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I could do it.
So,
if I get one
I
wrong,
don't need you to volunteer as tribute. I need you to volunteer with confidence.
I volunteer with confidence.
You sure?
Yes.
Alright, let's try with confidence this time. Alright, ready to begin? Start off with verb.
Did.
That's correct. Now, noun, we should have two.
Kid.
Yes,
Homework.
it's correct again. That's done. Now we'll jump to
wait.
adjective.
Can I erase? Because I got something wrong.
That sounds like a good idea. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. 3 adjectives in this one.
Yeah.
3 adjectives.
I found one in this.
Okay. That's tricky of you. Have we already got? What's that?
The
Is correct.
slow
Good.
and today.
Remember, just before we throw out a guess, adjectives describe what?
A noun.
Good job. So, and it tells you what about the noun? What kind, or which one, stuff like that. And just make sure whichever one you're choosing. I'm not saying today was wrong, but you seemed confused, and I was already starting my explanation. So make sure that the one you choose goes with it. So one way or the other, you're going to have to make a choice at some point.
Everybody's like shouting answers at me.
No, I didn't say an
And
answer.
yet you're not saying anything.
I said
Thinking.
Faster!
Look at your
Today.
Today is incorrect.
I knew it. I knew it.
I knew it too.
I called it.
So Gabby,
Wait.
you had called nexties. Do you still feel you can finish out the rest?
Well, I can finish.
No?
I can do after the last adjective.
I can do
Wait,
that.
but I know what today is.
We don't need that one yet.
Well, and I have a question. How can it be the slow kid actually did their homework?
I volunteered to
Wouldn't it
you
be
again.
his homework?
Yeah.
How do you know it's a
Kill
boy?
yourself
Her
twice.
homework.
How do you know it's a girl?
You should do the his/her.
Yeah, there is considered an ungendered pronoun.
That's confusing though because it seems like a lot of people.
Alright. It's not a pronoun though.
But it's not. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it
No,
is.
it's not. Alright, Matt, you feel you can finish out the rest?
Yeah.
Alright, go for it, Matt. What's your next one?
There is
There is a.
adjective.
Nicely done.
Oh,
I
is
knew
there?
it.
Is an
I knew
adjective.
it.
It's only if it's like not in
Because-
You shouted today.
It's just telling
I
us
trust you.
which homework?
Their
Whose
homework
it is.
So it tells you describing a noun. Now you have adverbs. You have 2 adverbs.
Actually,
Good.
and today.
Is correct. Today tells you when it happens. That becomes your adverb. So anytime it tells you tomorrow, today, yesterday, it becomes an adverb. Absolutely.
Wait.
And that gives us one more word you have to do, which is wow.
Is it an interjection?
I know. Don't ask me. I need you to tell me.
It's an interjection.
Is correct.
I
And
know
the
it because it's a
interjection.
song.
That was the
that
tricky
right.
one.
I got that.
Next up,
so easy.
for your sentence pattern, what is your subject?
Kid.
Correct. And then what is our verb?
Yeah, did.
Is that action or is it linking?
Action.
That's correct. And then we have one more thing in there,
Direct object.
and that would be
Homework.
nicely done.
Whoa, I
You
actually got
kid
this.
did homework. So that becomes your direct object. What's your phrase? is correct. What's your clause?
The slow kid actually did their homework independent.
Is correct. Maybe the whole thing, the wow, some kids actually did their homework today, the whole thing becomes an independent clause, stands by itself. What sentence type is it?
Simple.
Anytime you have just a simple independent, and then what type is sentence type from that?
Declarative.
Is correct.
I got it all right.
If I had like 2 seconds to think, I'd tell you.
It was the I got it all right. Like seriously.
From there, hopefully, I'll leave it up there for another moment for those of you who are still trying to figure things out because you're not turning and talking and losing points and stuff like that, because that would just be so silly. So hopefully that helps you out a wee bit from there. Then you can move it off to the side as long as you have all of that information in those right spots, and we'll finish out our story from yesterday with locker jumping. Let's see, we have one character introduced into the story so far, and Keegan, who's our one character?
Zach.
Works for me. What do we know about Zach?
He's a locker thief.
He's a locker.
A locker thief. Put that light back on.
It's dry.
No, on. Thank you.
Sorry.
And so he is breaking into lockers. Is this his first time breaking into lockers?
No.
It's his
He broke into 50
Apparently he's done them a number of different times, 50 different times.
Is one dead or alive?
I'm not sure he's wanted dead or alive, but alright.
He hasn't been caught yet.
Not that way. You are correct, he has not been caught yet. And so we have gotten, let's see, from there. Oh, the first locker he breaks into, well, in the story, the first locker he breaks into, what does he find?
Gummy worm.
Dummy worms.
Good to go. That's where they were wrapped in the cellophane and the sour gummy worms. And then we got to, oh yeah, on the last column over to the right, where he's decided, before he goes back to class, what is he going to do?
Rob one more locker.
Rob one more locker. Nicely done. So that takes us all the way over to the right-hand side. It's like 3 paragraphs down. 3 paragraphs down from there. He pulled out his master list from the hallway and checked it for an easy combination he could remember. By the way, he just figured out how he's getting into lockers. He always made sure to memorize the combination before he got to the locker. Even he was smart enough to know it looked bad to be opening a locker while looking at a piece of paper for the right numbers. Especially now that school had been in for almost a semester and only an idiot wouldn't have their combo memorized. And he didn't want anyone to think he was an idiot. Excuse me. With a quick scan of his list, locker number 833 popped out at him. It almost jumped at him, he thought. It was a perfect choice. Luck was definitely with him today. He actually wasn't sure why he had never noticed this locker before. It was a perfect choice for a lockering. It appealed to him because 833 was the first 3 numbers of his phone number, and the combination was the exact same as the rest of his number. 9 to the right, 43 to the left, and 7 back to the right. It was a perfect choice for a lockering. Man, why hadn't I chosen this locker before, he wondered, as he strode down the hall towards it. As he approached the locker, Zach remembered why. Victoria Lemire, the weirdo, the freak, the girl in the all-black clothing with black fingernails who never smiled, whose mere glance creeped him out. The locker was her locker. There was a large A scrawled on the locker door in a thick black Sharpie that reminded him whose locker it was. The large A with the almost too tiny circle around the upper triangle of the letter. The symbol meant anarchy. Vicky had that same symbol etched into everything she owned. If you've never seen the symbol before, looks like that. It's the anarchy symbol. Do you guys know what anarchy means or what it's supposed to represent, I guess? Brown?
The government falling and everybody just going crazy.
Nicely done. It's usually a sign of the purge from the movie. The sign of rebelliousness. You're like, I don't believe in authority, right? I don't believe in teachers or the government. The fact that, rock on, be by yourself. You can't be controlled by the man. That kind of thing. Zach laughed to himself as he stepped closer to the locker. Well, this was the freak's lucky day. She was about to experience a little lockering. Let's see if this cheers her up, he thought to himself. It'll sure cheer me up. He'd always avoided her locker in the past, but now he decided luck was on his side. Besides, she wasn't even here today. She hadn't been in either his third period PE class or at lunch. She was the kind of person that was hard to miss at school. With a quick glance down the hall to make sure no one was around, he allowed himself a small chuckle at the thought of her in her PE outfit. Gray school shirt and green school shorts over long black long johns that went all the way down to her ankles. Black stringy hair that fell about her ears, black fingernails and lipstick. The overall image was of a strange dying tree with a green top and decrepit rotting trunk. Spinning the numbers on her locker, he allowed himself to wonder what odd little treat he might find in Vicky's school supply tube. As he hit the final digit of the combination and opened the door, he closed his eyes again. Gotta be quick with this one, he told himself. I can't piddle around digging through stuff. If someone comes by and sees that A on the outside of the door, then they'll know this isn't my locker. Open it, give it a quick scan of the inside, and grab the first thing that looks cool or valuable. I wonder if it'll be as messy as her life, he wondered as he opened his eyes. But it was spotless, perfect, completely organized. Everything was put away, stacked, even labeled. Books were organized by subject. No book covers on them, he noticed. Gesundheit. Folders were put next to their corresponding classes. Her gym uniform was neatly folded and laying on top of the upper shelf. Every single item was exactly where it was supposed to be. Nothing was out of place, but something was wrong. Zach glanced at the locker again from top to bottom. There was an envelope tied to the middle coat hook, but that wasn't what was bothering him. It was something else. He'd never seen a locker this neat and tidy, and he'd seen quite a few lockers. He'd even lockered prissy Karina Furthing, and her locker had been the most organized he'd ever seen. Even her magnets had been organized by... That's it, Zach whispered aloud, not even noticing he was making the sound. She has nothing to take, nothing worth lockering. There's actually nothing of hers even in here. He'd been expecting to find a treasure trove of fascinating items to choose from, but there was nothing. Not a single picture taped on the inside for him to laugh at. No cool magnets of crazed monkeys or punk bands for him to filch. Not even a crappy old pin for him to take. There were no personal items, he finished in that same hushed whisper. This is weird. And not the kind of neat weird he was expecting. This was a creepy Twilight Zone kind of weird. The only non-school item in the entire locker was that envelope on the hook. The envelope. Money comes in envelopes. Sometimes other good things comes in envelopes. Maybe there was still a chance of this turning out okay for him. He snatched the white paper rectangle off the hook and glanced what was written on the outside. To whomever finds this was written in small girlish letters on the front. And that was it. Nothing else was written anywhere on the entire thing. Well, Zach thought, this is just more good luck. The envelope is obviously for me, since I was the one who found it. Running his fingers along the paper, though, it didn't feel like any great find. It felt like it was just a letter. Maybe only one sheet of paper at that. But the letter had him curious, at least, and that was better than getting nothing for his efforts. Actually, the curiosity was stronger than he expected. He knew he should be getting back to class, but this was all just so dreamlike. It almost didn't even seem real to him. Plus, he really wanted to know what was in the letter. Why was this the only personal thing in the entire locker? Why was it addressed like that? Another glance over his shoulder showed him he had the next few moments alone. He ripped open the edge of the letter and pulled out the single sheet that was inside. Same handwriting as the outside, and only a single paragraph. I have done it. I am not sorry. I will not miss anybody. I will leave no mess to be cleaned either here or at home. You will never know I've gone, just like you never knew I was here. Goodbye, Victoria. Zach read it a second time, then a third time. Finally, he just stared at the letter. What was this crazy chick talking about? What mess? Gone where? What did she do she wasn't sorry about? Jeez, man, whatever, he mumbled as he closed the locker and turned back towards class. He'd just have to watch her later and see if he could figure out what she was talking about. As he walked slowly back to class, he still couldn't believe how clean her locker was. It was so organized, so unstudent-like. How could anyone actually use a locker like that? Why would anyone keep a locker that tidy unless they didn't plan to ever use it? His feet stopped moving as his brain raced ahead. She didn't plan on using the locker. He realized she's never coming back to it, or to school, or to... His hand suddenly felt very heavy as the realization of what he was holding in it dawned on him. This wasn't just a letter. It was a note. A suicide note. And he was the only one who knew about it. Standing in the hall, his mouth hanging open, Zach read the letter again. Now his feet were moving as fast as his brain. He ran down the hall towards his class. Mrs. Franklin would know what to do. She was a teacher. They were trained for this kind of thing. Maybe Victoria hadn't done it yet, he hoped. It was still early afternoon. Maybe she was lazy. Maybe she was scared. Maybe there was still time. Just maybe. Tearing around the final corner, he saw his classroom door. Have to get help, he told himself. We have to help her. He hit the door hard, too hard. The crashing sound of his impact was ringing in his ears, but it hadn't opened. He stepped back, stared at it, realized he'd forgotten to twist the handle. He slammed the handle down and burst into the room. Mrs. Franklin, we have to, he started to say, and then stopped. She was staring at him. No, that wasn't right. His teacher was glaring at him. He could almost feel a growl in her eyes as she spoke next. What, Mr. Suppin? What do we have? She hurled the questions at him in a near rage. An interruption of class? A student out causing trouble again? Do you even remember what Mr. Crenshaw told you? And then it hit him. The implications of what he was about to say. What the principal had told him the last time he'd been sent to the office. Next time I see you in this office, you're gone, young man. You've had your warnings. You will finally be expelled from our building. He was getting ready to tell his teacher what he had found while breaking into lockers. That's not something he could hide with a lie. He had the evidence clutched in his hand. He'd get kicked out of school for this. That was it. His parents would send him to military school. His future was about to be ruined because some psycho girl couldn't handle her life. All these thoughts raced through his head during a single beat of his heart. He gripped the paper tighter, crushing it into a useless wad. Now he had to throw away his life because of some girl he didn't even know? Well, his teacher asked again, do you remember? Or shall I send you down to his office that he can remind you in person? Now, do you want to continue making a disturbance in my class, or would you like to sit down? The paper wad was still clutched in his hand. It felt like a wad of lead now, but maybe he was wrong. Maybe it wasn't suicide. Maybe she was just a tidy person and didn't like messes. Maybe she wouldn't actually go through with it. Just maybe. And with that final thought, he made up his mind, relaxed his hand, and opened his mouth to speak.
What happens?
You always do.
Well, you wrote it.
He didn't write this.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. This is Andrew D. Campbell.
The problem...
Andrew D.
Well, let's put it this way first. Which direction do you think he would go? Using what you know about him in the story and knowing what the situation is, what do you think? Lamb?
I think that he would sit down and not say anything.
Why?
Because he apparently doesn't want to throw his life away for some psycho girl.
He does say that. I can agree. Brown?
I think that he would tell the teacher, but he would make up a lie, like, I found this on the ground in the hallway, opened it, and read it.
That's what I was
But if you did that, without the idea of it being in a locker, but just being in the hallway, would that work?
He said that, he could have said that I went to the bathroom, I walked out, and found this letter on the floor.
I mean, just saying, but without knowing it was in a locker, just saying that you found this letter on the floor. Could be, I don't know. And if he was quick enough to think of that lie.
right outside her locker.
Yeah, yes,
What if it was like taped to her?
Gabby?
But like the thing about that is he also didn't mention anything about that in the story about like making up a lie or anything.
That's true. Before he speaks, as I say, he thinks of the lie. I agree. So,
It could all be like a plot to catch him. Like everybody could have noticed that he's been taking stuff, and to catch him, they put this note in this girl's locker. And
but how do they get him to go to that locker that day?
Because it was his name.
Well, I don't remember. He already hit one locker, and it was like a last-second spur of a decision on the way back, and he'd avoided it in the past. And then you set it up on this one day where she happened to be gone. I mean, if not, then she has to just keep it going. I mean, not a bad thinking, and I do like the idea of trying to set up a trap and catching people, but I think it'd be tough. Yeah.
It says he was getting ready to tell his teacher what he found while breaking his lockers. He said that's not something he can write.
Tough. My request: don't tell 6th grade what's in the locker, because they've not gotten quite as far, and I want them to have that same.
Can we tell him with the dead body?
Yes.
Sure. But that'd be about it. It'll be interesting. See you tomorrow. Take it home.